Hey guys, Brian here with another figure that I want to give you my impressions on. This is Transformers Generations Windblade. Now, Windblade, well, I'm just going to go ahead and take this sword off because it's going to fall as I'm manipulating her and talking to you. So let's just go ahead and get the sword out of the way. This sword is kind of awesome. It has a sheath, and it comes out of the sheath. And is awesomely painted, awesome plastic, and this is a really cool sword. I like this sword. And the sheath doesn't really fit very well on her. She's basically this little post here just plugs into that little screw cover hole thing and doesn't do it super securely, so it's gonna fall off. So that's why I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, now as for who the character is, Windblade started off as a Hasbro experiment, I guess we'll say, where fans got to vote on various options to design a Transformer. And very quickly we realized that the fans were going to vote for a female flying vehicle. A female flying Autobot, specifically. And this is the result. They took some feedback and created their own thing with it. We did not vote for the geisha Japanese influence, but I'm okay with it. A number of people rage about it, but I'm okay with it. Her articulation has a pretty decent head joint, or ball jointed head. Her collar kind of gets in the way, but it's alright. Her face paint is pretty cool, actually. And coolly enough, her fan back here is detachable. There we go. And she can hold it. I suck at getting her to be able to hold it for some reason. And of course, I immediately proved myself wrong. And it's kind of a cool little feature that they didn't need to do, but I kind of dig. And it just pegs back in there. Bam. Her shoulders are pretty awesome. They can do a full 360. The wing is kind of attached to it, so you can do it all without really the wing, but it's a little bit more difficult because you have a wing in the way. Her shoulder pad is independent of her arm, so you can manipulate it freely, but it will kind of fall down like that, so that kind of sucks. I don't really know what can be solved to fix this. A number of figures have this issue, and it bugs me, but I don't really know how to fix it. She's got a bicep swivel with an incredibly thin bicep, a decent elbow joint, and a swiveling hand, which is actually rather tight. She has nothing at her waist except for the waist joint, which I just remember that she has. A ball-jointed leg, thigh, decent knee joint, and crappy, horrible, awful feet. My two biggest issues with this are the joint for transformation for her arms constantly comes unpegged and unsecured, and her feet are just horrible. Like this little heel was actually spun around and sits flush against the vent thing here, and would be basically like that much of a heel. So bam is what you're supposed to be doing. But she's a little bit back heavy, just enough that wasn't enough. So I took this off because it was just pretty easy to take off, spun it around, and it now goes backwards farther and gives her a little bit better of a heel spur and support. It's still a crappy foot. In fact, for a custom version, or for a custom figure I'm planning, I'm experimenting with different heel options, or feet options, and this is actually kind of what I've come up with as the best option, is just to have these heel bits completely ignored and use the tail fin as the actual foot itself, and that makes her very stable, and I'll probably end up cutting this part of the foot off. I don't know. I'm still experimenting with stuff, but this is basically the best foot option I have. That's little side jump aside. So her articulation is pretty good. Her accessories are pretty good. How about some size comparisons, shall we? Let's. So for some size comparison, since she interacted with them in the comic, there is Tankor and a version of Starscream, because I don't have the right version of Starscream. She looks pretty good with the deluxe size figures. However, I do have the correct Starscream mold, so there's the correct mold for the Starscream that she interacted with in her comic, which is actually pretty cool, by the way. I liked it. Ending was a little bit iffy, but other than that, I like the comic. And one other character that she interacted with, and a excuse to toot my own horn, if I may. Ironhide in the comic. Yep, that's my custom Ironhide figure that I made, and I'm rather proud of. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, for the most important size comparison of all, here she is with Metroplex. Yep. So let's go ahead and get her in. Oh, in robot mode, her wings have some articulation options that you can choose. You can basically fold them back like that. They're on this hinge here, so you can fold them up. You have some options to how you display her. I am personally pretty much okay with any options. They all look good to me. I just do this because for my custom, I'm planning on having the wings folded back. And so I just want to differentiate them, so I just do this. But let's go ahead and transform her and give you my opinions on the vehicle mode. Transform! Wah! Alright, so here she is in vehicle mode. And the best thing about this vehicle mode is these VTOL jets that can move and rotate and spin. I love these VTOL jets. They're so cool. Yeah. Landing gear can go up. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And here's the storage for the sword as well. Just kind of sitting there, poking out the back. Kind of ugly looking, so I generally leave this off as well. And another thing, here's the issue with my heel issue problem. Since I spun these around, they don't have a good way to hide in vehicle mode. Normally they would sit flush like this, but that way. So they'd be a little bit under here and a little bit easier to hide. But that's basically the best things I can say about the vehicle mode. The bottom of it, hey look, her arms and her legs are right there. Her chest at least is visible, but it's not really, I wouldn't say noticeable. Her legs kind of blend in decently enough. Her arms are just sitting right there. And given the arms are right there, you can kind of see her legs right there. And you can completely see the legs on top of her and see through her. I'm not a fan of these legs at all, really. This alt mode does not really wow me, unfortunately. It looks kind of cool, but it's just not super awesome. There can be better alt modes, I'd say. I still like the character, and I'm glad to have the figure, and I'm going to be customizing it. So she's not got an alt mode that I particularly love. At least her head is hidden pretty well. And I guess overall, I'm glad to have her, and I think she looks okay sitting on a shelf. She looks okay in various poses. She's posable enough that I can get some cool stuff out of her. Why aren't you sitting flat? But nothing in our alt mode really tabs together all super securely. Like the arms are only secured by her hands grabbing hold of this little peg right here. And they don't really do that very well. It very much looks like a hand that's just grabbing a wing. Yeah. Compared to one of my favorites, jet modes, this vehicle mode for this Seeker is just super tight and solid. And that's what I was hoping for with Windblade, but that's not what I got. But I suppose I should judge it for what it is, not what it isn't. And for what it is, I dig it well enough. It's a decent enough alt mode. More female Transformers is always a good thing. And a female jet at that is a nice mold to have. Even if it does require some TLC to try and make it better. So there's my opinion of the figure, guys. Tell me what you guys think if you have any opinions on her. What do you guys think of the comic? What did you guys think of the character? How do you feel about the geisha? How do you feel about the hollow jet mode? Let me know what you guys think about her. See ya.